I always have a lot of people asking me, Rieta, how do you guys get people to invest with you? And it's all about how you're presenting a deal. How do you make these investors comfortable with that your deal is a great deal? How do you do that? And today I want to give you the top 3 things that I always make sure that I cover in my proposal to private investors. And there's lots of things that you can include, but these are the top 3 things that really, really stand out. So what are the things, the normal things that you must have anyway? You must have your numbers, okay? Obviously, you must have a deal description, obviously. You must have your, what is the strategy? What is this property going to be used for? How am I going to make my money? What does the property look like? Putting in photos, all of those things. Who are you? What have you achieved? What are your biggest successes that you have achieved? The top 3, you might have millions, but list the top 3 things. So those are all standard things that you must have. But the top 3 things that I really want to talk about. Number 1, how will their money be paid back? So they know that they're going to put money into your project. But how is that? What are you going to do and how are you going to pay that money back? So they want to know that, I'm going to take your funds, I'm going to renovate a property, then I'm going to sell the property. And when the property is sold, from that, I'm going to pay your money back. But then they're going to say, okay, but now how do I know? And that's where you go into the due diligence questions and the numbers questions, because great, you're going to sell, but what happens if you can't sell for the right price? That goes into another topic, which I'll cover a bit later. But the first question is how? Now, there's a few ways that you can get people's money out of a property. Okay, number 1, you can definitely sell the property. Okay, if you're doing flips, that's a way you sell the property, and when the property sells, you can either share with the investor or they get their money back plus a percentage, or something like around those lines. So flips, you sell. That's how you're going to get your money back, and you explain the whole selling process. How is it going to be bought? What are you going to do? How are you going to add value? And then how are you going to get to this amount that you want to sell the property for? And all of that you need to include. If you want to keep a property, you don't want to flip it, you don't want to sell it, you want to keep it, you want to rent it, you will then look at something where you buy a property, you renovate it, you rent it out, you generate an income in the property, and you can then go and put a bond on that property, okay? Or if you had a small bond because the property wasn't worth a lot before you started your project, you can get a equity release. So you can get a higher bond, and that balance can then pay out that investor. Let me give you an example. One of our first deals that we did was a property in Boksburg. We bought it for 700,000 rands. We got 400,000 rands in on renovation fees because it was quite a dump. It was badly vandalized. So we had to spend 400,000 rands to get the property renovated. We then put a bond, we then put tenants in it. Obviously, we rented it out for a couple of months, and then we went to the bank and we said to the bank, can we get a bond on this property? They said, great, no worries. They valued the property at 2 million rands, and they said they will give us 70% of that value. So they said we can release 1.5 million of the equity in that property. We were then able to obviously get the 700,000 from purchasing the property and the 400,000 from loans from the investors, plus their interest portion. And all of that money was enough. So I could pay them back their money from refinancing the property or putting a bond on the property. So that is a very, very popular way for you to be able to pay back people when you want to keep a property. The third way, which is, I don't love it so much, but the third way is around rentals. You can pay somebody back over, especially if it's someone that's looking for a longer type of investment, you might want to pay them on a monthly basis. As you collect rent, you pay that over. Hopefully you keep some for yourself, otherwise why do all the work, right? But you will take a portion of your rental and you will pay back that capital over a longer period of time, if that investor is happy with that sort of arrangement. So those are the top 3 things that, well, the best 3 ways to do the number one of the things that you need in your proposal. The second one is that they want to know when. They always want to know, okay, great, I'm happy that I'll get my money back, but when? When am I going to get my money back? When am I going to get my returns? That is a big, big question that you need to be very, very clear on in your proposal. It's going to take 6 months for the renovation. In my previous example, it took us 6 months for the renovation. We then took 2 to 3 months to fill up the place and get 100% tenants in there. Then we took another 3 months to do the rental roll, because we didn't want to go to the bank and say, here's new leases, and they're going to say, so what? So we wanted to at least have a 3-month bank statement with here's the rent, here's the rent, here's the rent. And we could then take that to the bank and put a bond on it. But we all know bonds take time, right? So we then budgeted. We then planned for 3 months to get a bond. So we said to the seller and to the investors, we need 12 months. Then we'll be able to give you your money back. In the end, it took 13 months. And you need to also be upfront with these guys and say to them, I'm building in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months fat in case something goes wrong, because something always goes wrong in property, let's just be honest. So it's very important that you explain those risks as well, so that they don't come to you and say, but you said 12 months. It's like, yes, but I'm dependent on XYZ. And normally the guys are very understanding if you were upfront about the timelines. So that is number 2. Number 3 is around security. How secure is their money? Remember, these guys worked really, really hard for that money. They didn't see their families for that money. They didn't go to parties for that money because they saved it up. So they want to know, how secure is their money? If somebody borrows you money, you lend money from them, then there's if something happens and the property must be sold to recover, as a distress sale to recover the money, bank will get paid first. But if there's no bank involved, they get paid first before any other creditors can get paid. So there's different scenarios as to the different types of security that you can give. Giving shares in a property is another form of security. So if your company owns the property and they want to say, okay, I'm purchasing the shares in this company, and then as soon as you pay me back, then you get your shares back, because that way they have control over your company. So that is one way. I don't know, some people will do it, some people won't like to do that sort of setup. There's of course seeding rental income. There's if they have other properties in their business that they can offer as security. All those sort of things are ways that you can sign personal surety for it as well, so that there's an additional way that they can get their money back at a future date. So that's the other very, very, very important thing to have in your proposal to investors. Guys, go out, conquer, and be safe. Cheers.